Hello, this is Linda Vettrus Nichols, and I have with me the most amazing guy, Daniel Adams. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you so much. It's good to be with you, Linda.
Same here. Okay, so we're talking about radiate love. So when I hear the word radiate, I think of radiators because the first house I lived in was had the steam heat. And then the second thing I think about is like the sun and like radiating sunshine, sunlight. So when you think about the words radiate love, what's your thought process?
This phrase came from Why Am I on the Planet?
Mm,
And for me, one of the answers is to radiate love.
cool.
And I love that sunshine imagery. Like it's always constant.
Yeah.
Sometimes stuff gets in the way, right? Like clouds will get between me and the sun.
Oh, nice analogy.
But the sun's always there. It's always radiating. It's always sending its warm light down.
Nice.
One of the I don't know how I came away in school from thinking that the sun goes down every night and comes up every morning.
Right.
The earth turns away from the sun every night and turns back towards the sun every morning.
Yep, sounds like our lives.
Right. And that's true
away
for
from
me.
each other, then back.
Yeah, like love just exists. It's just there.
Beautiful.
Sometimes I block myself from seeing it or feeling it, or my senses are flooded with anger or fear or sadness. Sometimes my senses are flooded with joy. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
The sun is always there radiating, and it's just this warmth, right? I mean, the earth tilts in summertime to be more fully present with the warmth of the sun, and you go lay on the beach and dig your toes into the sand, and you're on your super soft towel, and you can hear the birds, right? And it's just radiating epicness.
Yeah.
Humans are the same way, and I love to see humans and what they radiate.
Very cool. And you see a lot of that as a alternative music therapist, right?
I do. Yeah. And it was cool to train in music therapy. It's been amazing to start to dive into more of the energy work realm and using sound as the doorway for healing, to use light as the doorway to healing. Imagery happens for me really, really easily.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fun in lots of different sessions and with different people to get into different images, because that's how the mind thinks, is images.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like one of my gifts is to see other people's gifts. So it's really fun for me to watch people radiate.
I love it. And I would say for me, it's finding people's zone of genius. Figuring that out.
That's true for me. Like I've appreciated that anytime I've not been in my genius, there's this little nudge for like, hey, let's do more of what works and less of what doesn't.
Ooh. Oh, I like the way you stated that. That's interesting. Cool. Thank you. All right. So love is sound. So what do you mean by that?
I mean, sound came first. When I read the Chronicles of Narnia, or when I read the Lord of the Rings mythology, both those systems start with the creator singing. And it starts with one pitch and everything gets a little bit warm and gray. And then the melody starts and it adds a little bit of color. And then different harmonies start to come in and it just builds and it grows and flourishes. And all of a sudden there's this vibrancy of color to match the vibrancy of sound, but sound came first. And I love in the book Power versus Force, the author, I forget his name.
David Hawkins.
Yes. Puts a frequency on each emotion.
Yes.
And that's fascinating to me because sound can be measured in hertz. If I go over to the piano and hit the A note, it rings at 440 wave cycles per second. So I can now match music waves with emotion waves and meet those where they're at and understand those waves, embody those waves, and then find whichever one feels amazing. There's so many music therapy studies that show you got to meet the feeling where it's at before you can move to somewhere else. So when I'm working with folks and they're feeling super depressed and super low and super sad, we need slow, sad music to meet them where they're at. If they want to stay there, they can.
That's so opposite. You're like oxymoron type, like I am.
Why?
That's cool. I love that. Yeah.
Think about it, right? If you're laying in bed, you're super low energy, and somebody comes in and starts jumping on your bed, and they're like, "Yay, it's the day!" Blah, blah, blah. You're like, "Shut up."
You're ready to kill them.
Yeah, like, it's not the vibrational match.
Yeah, that'll take you to hate real fast.
Right. And just think about how that reflects in the family, right? If I've got a super high energy son,
yep,
and my wife, for example, is like super low movement, she's very still, she's very in. Like they clash all the time because he's not the vibrational match, especially when she's up in her feelings and her emotions. Like she just wants to be still and wants to be quiet.
Yeah.
And like, how can we meet and honor that?
Mm-hmm.
How can we honor the introverts in our lives in their needs?
Yeah. Yeah.
In a pretty extroverted society.
Yep.
And one of the keys is sound.
Yeah, man. Well, and of course that, with a background 30 some years in special ed, it takes me to the therapy that works so well with autism, which is joining. And, if all they are doing is just sitting on the floor rocking. Well, it used to be like, well, we don't want them to rock. So, we drag them out of rocking, which, gets you into all kinds of fun behavior, right?
Right.
Behavior is communication. Hello. So getting on the floor with them and rocking with them has brought many kids out of their autistic state. So it's called joining. And I love that, and even teaching your son, like, notice where mommy's waves are and see what you can do to match that. I think it's brilliant. Like, who teaches that, in working with kids,
It's been so foundational in our family. Yeah. It's been such a huge piece of our family. And just those other teachings too, like, hey, can you sit with the fact that mom's having tears right now? Can I sit with the uncomfortableness of somebody's large emotion?
Yep.
And that totally changes the environment. I was thinking too about the rocking. It makes sound. Every repetitive behavior or movement creates some kind of sound. And so that, again, can be another entrance point to match somebody where they're at and really validate them and what they're experiencing. And it goes pretty quick once they get validated. It's when Eckhart Tolle, right, says thwarted wanting is the ego's favorite excuse to explode. It's like,
say it again.
So Eckhart Tolle, it's the New Earth book.
A New Earth, yeah.
A New Earth. He says thwarted wanting is what the ego is waiting to explode over.
Wow, that is huge.
And that's totally up to me, whether I let it be a thwarted wanting or not, right? That's when the drama comes, is like, well, nobody understands me and nobody validates me. And like,
yep. And I'll go further into my crying, further into my pity party, further into my pain body, right?
Yeah, and sounds are so, I mean, even nonverbal sounds. Have you ever been like in a really ugly cry and you just start making these sounds and they're just like, how am I making that noise right now?
Yeah, it's usually pretty guttural, or it's just like super high pitched, too.
Right, and it's like these whines or these like, and it's like, whoa, what is that? That
or the really guttural like.
Yeah. And when you're angry, it comes from, and you get these grunts. But those are such a beautiful way to move emotion.
Yeah. And then when you feel sorry for yourself, that's when you get into the high pitches. They're gonna do like the little kid pitches. I love that.
Well, and what does laughter do? Think about the person that every time you hear their laughter, it's just like angel bells
Aw.
and twinkles, right? And it just like lights your soul because it's just like mirth and like the happiness of jolly Santa Claus embodied in this laugh that somebody, like, it's all sound. It's all such a beautiful part of being human.
Yeah. And the energy you're after, maybe, right?
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
And like, how do I radiate love? Well, I do it with sound.
And I love that. Very cool. Good stuff. Okay. So light second. So where'd you get that? What are you talking about?
So I believe that sound came first. When everything got created, that it started with a sound. Scientists talk about the big bang.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like a sound.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible says, and God said, which is like a sound.
Let there be light.
Let there be light. So like light comes second. Light is also on a spectrum, right? Red has those super slow waves. Purple has the super fast waves. All the other colors are in a spectrum in between. We can match light on a spectrum just like we can match sound on a spectrum, just like I can match feelings on a spectrum. So there are all these ways to be meeting needs, to be helping emotion flow authentically and move. I love light. And I've been afraid for a long, long time to go into my shadow, to go into the parts of me that felt dark.
Because that's not spiritual.
Right. Somebody framed it to me this way: how many stars can you see while the sun is shining?
Ooh.
I was like, usually 0. And he's like, yeah, because you're super close to this body of light, which is beautiful and it's warm and I love it. And when it's totally, completely dark, when you're at like Bryce Canyon National Park.
That's when you get your clarity in your darkest moments, right?
Light pollution, right? What is the breadth and the depth of how many stars you can see in the shape of the Milky Way? And it has to be so dark to understand that. And so for me, some of my biggest transformations have been willing to step into what I felt was dark.
Mm-hmm.
And what I felt was wrong or taboo. And like, I'm still here. And I went in with love and I came out with gifts.
Ooh, very cool.
And that's the beauty of diving into the shadow of, and every bright light source creates a more intense shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So just enjoy the fact that that exists.
Yeah, right? Well, let's talk Lady Gaga's song about In the Shallow, right? Yeah, so and now they're like, she's talking about the two of them in the deep end, right? So again, the deep end is more the darkness, like in Fear in the Water, right? The sun lights up just so much in the depth of the water, and then there's like probably like no light at the bottom of the ocean or something. And working out stuff. How do you see that song, or don't you know that one?
I haven't listened to it yet. I'm loving the metaphor. I just had this image of like swimming in these deep parts of the ocean that nobody's ever explored in, but also bringing love and radiating my love. I love that humans put off bioluminescence, right? Measurable by science. And it's those, fish do the same thing. Like, I just thought about as I, go through maybe the sticky situations in a relationship, or navigating work conflicts, or whatever it is, working through a trauma experience or a grief or a loss experience, there's so much darkness in there. How can I bring my love to meet whatever it is that I find in there?
Yeah, man.
And it takes a really safe container for that. And I find that music helps hold that container in just the most genuinely glorious way. That's so safe and so gentle.
That's so cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. Big breath. Whoo. This one's going to be one of those that people watch and they're going to have this nice, deep processing going on for days.
Good luck.
I love it. Well, can people connect with you like through like your website, through email there or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to understand your experience and hear your experience. Love for you to chime in. I'd love to get to know you better. The address would be hello@youcancreate.org.
Cool. Or go to your website, youcancreate.org.
Right.
And just use the contact page, right?
Either way.
Cool beans.
The contact page is not currently live.
Oh, it isn't? Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, but send an email for sure to hello@youcancreate.org. And I very much want to hear your thoughts, want to hear your experiences.
Yeah, do that. He's a deep thinker. You'll enjoy Daniel very much. Okay, so created in the image of God. So what does that mean to you?
Here comes some more depth. I believe that we were born, begotten, and reared by heavenly parents. Like God, I talk about God as masculine.
Yeah.
I believe that God has a feminine counterpart. And that they, the same way that my parents, when two people fall in love, my parents got together and out of love, they decided to combine 23 of his chromosomes and 23 of her chromosomes and create myself. It's fascinating to me the way I act just like my mother in mannerisms, in phrases. And sometimes I hate that I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I wear slippers. I shuffle my slippers on the floor just like my dad.
Nice.
And there are all these just like random little things because it's like I'm literally 23 of him and 23 of her, and they came together to create me. I believe that is an earthly, temporal, physical analogy for how it went down in a spiritual realm.
Right.
That God and Goddess got together and created my spiritual soul.
Mm-hmm.
And that I am literally created in the image of God. And there's lots of different, spiritual orientations teach different things about that. And why that's important to me is I inherited that I am the most proliferative, creative being in the universe.
Yeah, man.
I am always creating. I have the power with my thoughts and with the programs that I run over and over again to draw into my life. I visualized one time a fridge full of like vegetables and things. Just all the yumminess I could think of, strawberries and blueberries. And in 2 weeks, somebody showed up from a summer camp and they said, "Hey, we have all this extra food."
Nice.
And it was like I had made a list as I was envisioning of like the things that I wanted to be filled in the fridge.
Cool.
And everything on that list, some dude from summer camp brought to my house.
Oh, wow. Those
like
are so
I am creator.
Yep.
And I'm always creating. And sometimes I create things that I'm not very happy with. Sometimes I create things that I'm ecstatic about.
Right.
It's just a question of awareness, right? Because I am created in the image of my heavenly parents. And that's how life's structured. Like, why create families?
Yeah, right?
Why are men and women biologically driven to be together? Or why are we attracted to other humans, I should say? There are lots of different types of partnerships.
Yeah. So say that quote again. And whose quote is it again? Is it John Wildman?
Ooh. Which one?
About the heavenly parents thing.
Oh, yes, it was a gentleman named Joseph F. Smith in 1919. We are begotten, born and reared by heavenly parents.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me just rings. That's so expansive to me.
Yeah. And, the Bible talks about God is neither male nor female. The original images of God that they found bazillions of years ago, you don't even hear about those, are in the form of a woman. And then we went, oh yeah, man, and I love it that the Bible hung on to both. Only it's not always taught that way, right?
Right. And it's so fascinating. I mean, is light a wave or a particle? Well, yes. It depends how you observe it, right? It has the properties of both, and it depends how it's observed.
Yeah, right. Which is us in our physical and us in our soul. Where we come in and fully embody a human body. We're not a human being. We're actually a soul made and created in the image of God.
Right. And there's like all this imagery for like, how do I marry my soul and my body, and where's the overlap of where they're together?
Yeah, man.
Even the whole idea of like a masculine energy and a feminine energy, whether it be God and goddess or man and woman or whatever, and they come together to create something new.
Yeah. And I see that
23 from here, 23 from here, and it creates 46 chromosomes of a new creature and a new creation. Business mergers, one of them's usually typically more like capital M masculine and capital F feminine, and they come together to create this new business entity.
Nice.
Like, it's all, I haven't met God yet. Like,
yes, you have, right inside.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that whole like
I don't know how it all works, I guess, is my point.
Right, but the God incarnate idea, right, Daniel? Yeah. So the soul, the spirit, whatever, and there's you can get down to the nitty gritty on the separation there. So the soul coming into the human body, the shell, right? And Jesus is God, the soul incarnate, right? So in human, there's your example.
Yeah, the perfect example of how to marry soul and body.
Yeah. And live and walk at the level of the soul, which is kind of like, I love that line. I say that a lot. It's my line. And that's what I mean, and Jesus was an amazing example of that. He didn't buy into, the ego and the pain body and all of that, and the shaming.
Cultural.
No. Yeah, but he used culture to teach, which was very cool too, to communicate.
Like, he spoke people's language.
Yeah, he was like on steroids when it came to teaching relationship and connection.
And the way he embodied healing.
God the Father too. Sorry, what?
I've been impacted recently with how Jesus embodied anger, and how Jesus embodied fear, and
Jesus embodied anger by letting it go.
Right. Well, I mean, he's chucking tables in the book of John chapter 2, right? Like, he's literally overturning like, he made a whip to smack people with.
He made a point. Because that was like, whoa, this is not him. And he's like, you want to see what you're vibrating like inside? I'm going to show you on the outside.
Right. Like, it's incredible the way that Jesus embodies the fullness of every emotion.
Yes.
And I'm patterned after that image. Like, I have that same creatorship and that same potential. Yeah. And that excites me to no end. Like, I get so excited about that potential in myself. And I love seeing humans from that potential.
Yep. And you can use your anger to flip tables and like make a point, or you can use your anger to create, right?
Right.
And that's when it dissipates.
Well, and turns into a whole new creative force, right? Harness the fire.
Yeah.
Let it propel. Let it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a little chaotic when volcanoes erupt, and eventually it'll turn into the paradise of Hawaii, right?
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? And I was in Hawaii and I watched well, I was actually in a helicopter following the lava flow. And
Amazing.
yeah, it's like, it was sad too, because it was continuing to burn down trees. It was continuing to kill foliage until there was nothing left but two kinds of lava. There's lava and there's lava. Lava is the really smooth lava, and the lava is the more rocky, like you can't walk barefoot on it. You're like if you do lava.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh. Yeah. And it was fascinating. It carried both emotions to do that helicopter tour, because literally there was a school bus with lava halfway up the windows.
Oh, wow.
And you're like, oh, cool, did they get out?
Right.
And then there were mansions totally surrounded by all this lava, and there was like no way to really live there unless you owned a helicopter, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if your plumbing would work anymore. It's just wow. Like, I'd never been in that world before. It was pretty fascinating.
Sounds transformative.
It was, yeah, absolutely. Well, very cool. Love this chat as usual. Thank you so much, Daniel. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or are you good?
Just wanting to radiate some love wherever y'all are at. Send you love. Honor your experience.
I love it. Cool beans. All right. Well, connect with Daniel through email. And again, it's hello@youcancreate.org. Daniel, is that right?
It is. Yeah. Let me know your thoughts on how sound has shown up for you, on your relationship with light, on your relationship with deity, and how that's worked for you. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, cool combos. All right. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
See ya.